folks. We're being joined this afternoon by Mr. Bernie Bush, MLA representative for one of the districts in West Bay. Now you have to forgive me because with the new constituencies, I always mix up. Which one are you, Bernie?
West Bay North.
West Bay North. So Bernie Bush from West Bay North. As I promised you guys on Wednesday afternoon, we would secure an exclusive interview with MLA Bernie Bush because he made a real ballsy move on Tuesday during his contribution to the Legislative Assembly debate on the port, the cruise berthing facility. Bernie, just in case anyone may have missed it, fill us in on what went down on Tuesday during the debating session.
When I made my contribution to the debate, it had been stewing in the back of my mind for some time. Ever since I started to randomly pick out people in my constituency to get their opinions, and I kept hearing a recurring theme. So my decision to cross the aisle was based on feedback received from my constituents, and in particular, the younger ones who represent the future of our island. 19 years ago, when I started my political journey, I made the people of West Bay know that my principles were not for rent and they were not for sale. There are too many Caymanians in the last few years who are now having to go to the UK to make life better. That's a shame. That's a very bad indictment on us. And when you ask them why, they say they saw no opportunities in Cayman. And when I'm surveying and I find 5 young people in particular that have, 3 of them have associates, 2 have bachelors, and they can't get jobs in their own country, it kind of built up in me and got to me. And
so just to clarify then, I think people would have to be living in a hole to not know what decision you made on Tuesday evening. But just to clarify, in case they missed it, maybe they were traveling. On Tuesday during the Legislative Assembly debate on the whole referendum, which will be on December the 19th, you made an announcement that you will essentially be quitting the government because you are part of the coalition government, and you will be moving to the opposition benches.
yes.
Right.
But if you remember the last sitting of the House, the Minister Roy McTaggart stood up and said that I was not really a part of them because I have never attended caucus and that I don't vote with them on everything. And he told the truth.
Right.
And when I was told that this was a unity government, I put forward, and it's the only time, because I have to give credit where it's due, the Premier and myself have a decent relationship. And I put forward 5 names, I still have the email, of people to sit on boards, all qualified for the relative boards. I mean, a perfect example was for the Port Authority Board, I put a retired Deputy Collector of Customs, Mr. Colin Powery, who's more qualified than him to sit on a board like that. And I put forward people like that in the various sectors. I've never gotten a reply. And that was the simple reason. When I didn't get a reply, I didn't get none of my people, obviously I don't count. So I sat there because I was on the Public Accounts Committee, which I have to give credit. I was put there by the Premier over other people that other people had put other names forward. He put me there and I was honored, and I did not want to let him down.
Right.
The Premier also tried to get me to be a councillor. And I must say, in the negotiating, when they were trying to form the government, he also offered me a ministry.
Okay.
But I was seeing the fact that I was with the CDP and that my leader at that time had the experience. I told them, give him the ministry because I was new.
Okay.
Well, they said, no, that's the way it's not going to be. He's not going to be in cabinet with them. So I left it alone.
Right.
If this is the man who has the experience, he had proven himself in the Ministry of Tourism and many other ministries before when he had them. So I backed off. It was no big deal. But when Minister McTaggart stood up and told the country that I was not part of it. I don't know why he did it at that time, and I don't know what his motives were, but I let it slide.
Right. I mean, there's always been this discussion on the Literal Mall Road that this coalition government has been a little bit on quicksand in the sense that it's an arrangement of convenience.
I know nothing if it's on quicksand or not,
Right.
because I've never been in a meeting with them on anything. When we've gone into camera with everybody else, I've sat there, and like I said, I have voted with them on certain issues I've abstained, and I felt, and this is another reason why I decided to walk. When I started my political career 19 years ago, when I ran the first time, I had 2 young children. Now my son, when I see my son had to leave and go someplace else to move in a direction that he felt he couldn't move here, it hurts, because now I have a granddaughter, and for me to see my granddaughter, I have to fly. If the Cayman Islands is so prosperous and so good for everyone, why is it not that way for us? And that's when you hear these young people tell me that they're going to have to move. All this just built up in me. But I wish the government well in their endeavors, but I can no longer be party to a group where some members have a problem with me disagreeing with the government's position. Section 44(3). It says of the Constitution is clear with regards to responsibility of non-cabinet members. It says we must keep the government in check. I believe I can serve my constituents better now if I go across there, and that way I don't have any people when I'm speaking saying you might as well move across there with them, you might as well go over there, and those type of little statements. But my constituents told me, if they take you off of the PAC, don't worry about it.
Right.
Gone over, we don't like you sitting over there. I heard that more and more and more and more. And since I'm a little sorry that I got emotional, but that night, but I couldn't help myself. And I said nothing bad about the Premier. In fact, I complimented him for the way he's treated me. I complimented Minister Hugh on his contribution, which I thought was a pretty fair contribution compared to some of the other foolishness that I heard. And I was a little offended when the Premier jumped up the next morning and said that my performance was worthy of the best shows in London, or something to that thing. And I was a little disappointed, but it is what it is. It's politics, and I will not be a part of anything for convenience. There's 2 things I always remember. If you can't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that night I looked for this quote, and I couldn't find it. I had written it down. It says, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that's neither safe, politic, or popular, but one must take it because one's conscience tells them that it's right. And politics will never define Bernie Bush. If you look at a lot of members sitting in there and you ask yourself, before politics, did you know them? Did you ever hear of them? No. Everybody knew me before I got to politics. I was already doing in my community. I was already doing in my country. And regardless if I'm elected again or not, which people tell me from 2 years ago when I walked away from the CDP, I heard people say, oh, that's political suicide. It does not matter. As long as I represent my constituency and my people. And to think that I have gone over 1,600 messages, not including phone calls, and I've only got 2 that disagree. And I met one today, this morning, at the drugstore who disagreed. So that's 3, and that person was not my constituency anyway. But it still matters because he was a Caymanian, but I give him respect because he stood and talked with me to my face. But I think it's time for Caymanians to try to take back their country. For too long, foreign interest, special interest, and self-interest has ruled this country, and who's suffering are the little people at the bottom.
Yeah.
All of this money that's being spent and all the stuff that's being spent, and we have people who genuinely need help, and they're being told, you know, government don't have the money, you hear this and you hear that.
Yes.
So my conscience is very clear, and I see some other people trying to make themselves relevant by offering their opinions on my move, when my move had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with any one individual or nothing. And I will not go and answer them at this time because they're not relevant in my books.
Right. Let's focus then on the reasoning behind your decision, this court.
It's simple.
Yes.
It's simple. I leave the figures and those type of things to Chris and people like Dan Scott and those people who are accountants, and I trust them. When it comes to the engineering and stuff, Ezard and Arden laid out some very good arguments. But the two things, on the government side, you hear so much different stories at different times. But there's one story that's very simple, and this is what got me. We must accept the fact that the last EIA that was done, that's the environmental impact assessment. For those people who may not understand, this is when you go out and you try to guess, and to me, what I'm saying is a lot of guesswork. You try to see, if I do this, what will happen? For example, if you go right now to the four-way in West Bay, at West Bay, right by the little fish shop, right behind Four Winds Esso, walk to that wall and look down. I grew up right there, right next to J&M Electronics. That's where I was born, grow all my life. That beach was my backyard.
Right.
There's no beach. What's caused that? Planning, letting people put down a house a little further up, and then that wall never helped any other, in my humble opinion. The evidence is there. Talk to the people at the environment and get their opinion. The second one is the Marriott Hotel. Around the back there, that's eaten right out. You must not trouble the coastline. Now, when you cannot guarantee me, and the 2015 EIA report that is being quoted from, and give the Premier credit where credit is due, he never lied on that. He never lied. He said, I'm reading from the 2015. But since then, the plans for the port has changed. That's another fact. That EIA report 2015 was done on the plans before that. The plans have changed. They admit that as well. Where's the new EIA report? And even in the old one, it said unlikely. That unlikely is not enough for me. Because if we lose the 7 Mile Beach, there's no bringing it back.
Right.
We know the tourists are coming here for that and are diving. We do not take any chances with that.
Right.
And until one of these people can tell me, say, it will not affect it, I'm not taking that chance. My granddaughter must come home here. When she gets old enough to come spend a weekend with Papa, she must be able to go walk on that beach with me, with my dogs.
Yeah.
I am not taking any chances. We have generations coming behind. It's very simple. Why must we take a chance with their legacy? That is theirs, you know. Sandra, you too have a baby. You know what it's like. Life is different when you have a child. And when you have a grandchild, for some reason it amplifies more. Because they're saying that if I knew that grandchildren were this good, I would have had the grandchildren first, is very true.
Yeah. So, the environmental impact, I think one of the things that people don't always understand is Cayman is extremely fragile environmentally for a lot of reasons.
Yes, ma'am.
And we don't have a whole lot to offer tourists. Like,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
are they coming to look at? I mean, people have this idea in their head. Are they coming to walk around Cayman Bay? They could stay in Miami and do that at the Grove or, you know, wherever they're from. So, like you said, the beach, the diving, Stingray City, you know, the few little tourist attractions that we have are so vital
And
to
they
protect.
and beside that, what got tourists here in the original tourism product that was coming here all along, beside those things, was what? Us, the
people,
Caymanians.
right.
How
Well,
many
we're
of
almost at stake now.
how many of us do you see when you go to work to
Yeah.
these hotels?
Exactly.
And you have the school at UCCI. These young people are going on work experience, getting graded, doing good. They graduate and they can't get a job. And I can bring you 10 or 15 names right now, because they come to me asking me to get them a job. The one that makes me laugh the most, some of the people that sit on these boards, they have their companies. You would think, well, okay, these people pass through the curriculum that I have designed. I'm going to hire them. Nope. You go there and you find people coming all the way from Timbuktu. And it's as if these people in this country don't realize that the minute a dollar stays in this country, it helps our economy. And
Speaking of the economy, that seems to be the biggest argument that the government is utilizing. Why do we need these mega ships? Because of the money that's going to bring in. It's going to help the tour operators. It's going to help the small businesses in town. Despite the fact that we've spoken to some small businesses in town, they said even with the recent increases, they don't see an increase in their bottom line, because those people, although they're taxing our infrastructure, they're making traffic in town, you know, worse, they're actually not spending any more money.
And beside that, go down on the beach the days that they're here and look at the mess. Who cleans that up? Us.
Right.
Listen, I have a constituent who owns a store right in the waterfront. And she told me on a cruise ship there is the worst days for her business, because the stayover tourists don't want to come into all that mess in town.
Right.
And if she makes $100, she's lucky. But on non-cruise ship days, she makes decent money that she can keep her business open. But if it was just for cruise ships, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And if the mega ships were the answer, why is there only one being built between now and 2024? One or two, I think maybe two. But yet the next step down that comes here, they've got a ton of them being built. That should tell you something. And
there's a lot of jurisdictions that are now legislating against these mega ships. They're saying
correct.
we don't want them.
No. And the thing about it is, I've heard 5 stories now about the mega ships. I've only heard one positive. I've only heard one positive, and that was from Minister Hugh, who just went on one somewhere up around Alaska. But I've now spoken to a sister-in-law and a cousin and a friend, all from, and they've gone on the mega thing, and they say it is too much people, and they will never go back on one.
Right.
And my thing is, and this is the argument that came from some of the members of the opposition, if we were already ahead of those people who have peers, why did we leave ours and let ours be unique? I have a friend who sent me a text on my phone that they just came off a cruise, and they say in Belize, where they got off, it took them a half an hour from the boat to the dock. That doesn't include getting on or getting off. Ours don't take that long. Because I've been up to those cruise ships for lunch in the daytime. It don't take us a half an hour to get there. Look, I simply feel we're not getting our bang for our buck on the financial side, trying to understand what the financial experts are saying. But the long and short of it is, there's no need for us to jump so fast, so quick. If it is meant to be, it will be. And let us do a proper new environmental impact. We look at that and bring things out into the public. There's no need to hide nothing. At the end of the day, we all have to, and we're going to end up paying somehow, whether from the front, the middle, or the back. Something will have to come for us, because nothing is free. So I've heard, oh, it won't cost this, it won't cost that, it won't, regardless. And another thing I'm going to say here, in 2000, the first time I ran for politics, Jay Earnhardt was working at Radio Cayman at the time. He asked a question, what's the greatest environmental issue we have? God saw it fit that that night I was the last one to speak. And I still have that recording. Everybody spoke on everything except what? The dump. I was the only one spoke about the dump in 2000. How I know that? Unlike all of them inside of there, I am out on the water. And I remember one night coming in, jumping overboard to bring the boat in. And then all of a sudden I hit this hot water. And that's what opened my eyes. That heat was from stuff seeping through. And when the next day I went back and looked, and the water was still hot. And I realized we have an issue, and that's the dump. The dump is right there. And that was my eye opener. And so when you see these things, you say to yourself, why isn't everybody else seeing it? And I'm not an expert. Now you also hear these people talking about coral transplanting. Now, there's another thing that I know about that I would dare to place a bet, if I was a gambling man, that there's not another 3 or 4 members in that parliament with me that ever gone diving in that out there in that harbor. I grew up out there with the sons of Mr. Bob Soto, Danny Soto and Randy Soto, and Captain Kem Jackson's son, Joey Jackson, who's the captain of Cayman Airways. We grew up diving out there, skiing out there, playing around out in that harbor. And I can tell, you could replace a pan shore. Do the people know the size of some of those pan shores? It'll take you swimming 30 seconds to get from one side to the other. That's a big, and then when you go down the edge, it's like if you ever seen a video of when a bomb explodes, how the smoke comes, that's how they are. You see that you stem and they're big. You can't replace that. You can't transplant that. And if you happen to plant something and it catches, you know how long my great-grandchildren might see something. So why take a chance with what we have? We've already made mistakes. We've allowed the ships to anchor out there and we've never fined them. Everybody else, when they do wrong, they get fined. We never had enough foresight. When HSBC got fined in Mexico, if we had had people with any vision, or maybe you never know, once again, you never know what they may have been left out on purpose. We should have got somebody out of HSBC too. You heard other cruise ships doing wrong and getting fined. You hear us doing anything? But yet, make a Caymanian go and pick up one lobster in a count to try to feed his child because he's hungry and he can't find a job. And you hear him going to Northwood. Make him get catch with one little spliff and you got a police record that you can't get rid of. Everything has been against us. It's time for all of this to stop, Sandra. Caymanians are fed up. That's what they're telling me. And it's my duty to represent them.
Okay. Well, I think you have definitely set the record straight here on the Pulse. Folks, thank you so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. As usual, we're trying to bring you the latest news as it happens, and we did a live stream on Wednesday afternoon because, again, everyone saw this as a major move by yourself. It's obviously politically a risk, but like you said, your interest is not political. It's about serving the people of this country.
Correct. When I remember someone reminded me of something the other day when they said, I cannot believe it took 19 years, not for rent, not for sale, to catch on. He said you should also say what you said then. And that is, it seems that a lot of politicians have 3 jobs. Get elected, get re-elected, and stay elected. I am not one of those. Because I've already identified 2 or 3 young people who will replace me and replace me very soon. Believe you me. So this is not something that I'm going to stay in here forever. And I'll repeat what the Premier said the other day. And I believe the Premier when he said, I'm not like some politicians who want to set records and say they've been here the longest and so forth. I agree with him. I'm also like him. I'm not one of those.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. And Bernie, again, thank you so much for joining us here on The Pulse, brought to you exclusively by Cayman Law Road. Folks, stay tuned. Please remember December the 19th is a day that you need to go out and let your voices be heard and let your voices count, regardless of where you stand on this issue. This is one thing that I was personally disappointed in, to hear the Premier encourage people to stay home. However you're planning to vote, I think you need to go out there. This is your democratic right. And there are people who fought very hard to make sure that this referendum came to fruition. And there's a lot of shenanigans going on. Here on Kimbermore Road, we're going to start focusing over the next couple weeks more and more on some of this, because you guys are requesting it. And I do know that some of the government members have said that they're going to be sending us their debate, and we will give you both sides. We will share information equally, but I think the bottom line is you need to be educated. You need to make sure that whatever your opinion is, it's well informed and it's based on good, solid information. There's a lot of politics and politics being played at this particular time, a lot of misinformation, and it has been proven without a doubt that the Premier himself has said things that are 100% false in relation to members of the CPR group and, you know, the supposed anti-port representatives and anti-port persons. So to me, that's an alarm. If you stand by the truth and you stand by right, you should never, ever have to resort to those types of tactics. And the mere fact that you have to do that means that there's something wrong with your position. And that's the takeaway I think people need to really pay quite close attention to. So we'll continue to bring you all of the updates and all of the information right here on Kimbermore Road. So please stay tuned.